So we're on to the tiptoe strategy guide. Welcome everyone. The starting position is not important for players in this particular match. The randomness I've said is medium. This is attributed to the fact that the tiles are random, but more importantly, the big group, the big mosh pit you're getting towards the end, when it jostles around, you can fall out pretty randomly sometimes. It's like the game's easy until something happens, and it's quite a strict game. Like most of the time, only 7 or 9 people can get through this one, so it is pretty tough. The technicality of the level is low. Really, it's just about running and jumping. You do have to kind of remember certain routes if you do fall off, and maybe there is knowledge that you can have based on what tiles are fake and what tiles are real, which we'll go over later. So now we're on to the strategy, and the first strat they'll want to talk about is the Bilbo swagging strat. At the beginning of the game, everyone should aim for the glory and just go crazy and try and reach the end in one go without dying. We all want glory in our lives, and this map really allows you to try it. I think you've got one death before you have to actually take the game seriously, so you might as well just randomly run and jump and try and get to the end in one run, because one day it'll happen, and then glory to you. But on a serious note, the first strategy really is standing back. I've seen a lot of people do this, where they just stand apart from the big group at the front, which is jostling and pushing people, and they just stand back to reduce the chance of falling and just watch to see where to go and let other people figure out the route. You do have to keep an eye on how big the mob is and how many qualifications are allowed, because you could get left behind if they find the correct path. You may have to run past the mob, and I think running past the mob is actually harder than being in the mob. I don't do this one myself, but it is a viable strategy that you can do. So the second strategy is the mosh pit. This is where you get stuck in with the mob on the last viable tile, and you push people around to discover the correct path. Push them into fake tiles. Now, if you plan to do this, I do this a lot. You want to try and stay in the middle of the crowd, because then you've got less chance to fall off. And you want to use grabbing for several reasons. So you want to use it to push people onto fake tiles and to make them drop and figure out where to go, but also it stabilizes you. So you can grab onto people to make it so you don't get pushed around too much, because when you're grabbing someone, you're a lot harder to move than when you're not grabbing someone. So welcome to the tips and tricks section. Now, we got here quite early, but this section is quite big, and we're going to learn a lot of rules here, and then at the end we're going to encapsulate all the rules together. We're going to put them all back together, and it's really going to help us identify real paths and fake paths. And hopefully this will really give you an advantage over your opponents to identify what the real path is while everyone's waiting around and jostling, and you can sneak off and get the victory before they do. So before we begin, I'm going to be mentioning something called the cardinal directions quite a lot, and I wanted to clarify what that means for people that don't know. It essentially just means north, south, east and west, or up, down, left and right if you want to put it that way. Okay? So the first tip and trick is that it's never diagonal. The correct route is never a diagonal tile. Okay, so if you look at my first picture, you'll never get a situation where you have to go diagonal to win. Now, that's not to say the diagonal tile can't be real, because it can, but it will always have a cardinal entrance to it, a north, south, east or west entrance. You never have to actually go diagonal in order to win. So the second tip is that tiles never go backwards. If you look at my first image, so you'll never get a situation where you have to go backwards and that is the correct path. Okay, so in the image, you'll never have to go right, down, right, up, and that is the correct way to go. That's not to say tiles can't go backwards. For example, on the right image here, we've seen like a forked path that converges in the middle. That can happen, but that is not the correct path. That is a previous path that is now converging. Okay, so this means you can eliminate certain tiles as fake tiles or tiles you're not interested in. Okay, you never really have to look for tiles that are going backwards towards the start of the game, because if you find one of those, you are essentially just retreading, going back to the start of the game. You're never going to have to go back in order to go forward. So the third tip and trick is wobbly fake tiles. Now, you may have noticed when you're playing that certain tiles wobble. These are confirmed 100% fake. Okay, so you should keep an eye out for wobbling tiles. Now, you really only need to keep an eye out for wobbling tiles on the viable cardinal directions. That's north, south, east and west, okay, of your current position. So I just wanted to add in a rumour, which is when a tile wobbles, it doesn't wobble for everybody. Everyone sees the tiles wobbling at different times, which means that when you see information about an incorrect path because it's wobbled, that information is yours and you've got an advantage over everyone else because you know that that's not a real path. Hopefully this can be confirmed or denied later, but I thought I'd put it down because it's actually a pretty interesting concept to think about. So tip number 4 is that we put all the previous 3 tips together. By using those rules, we can quickly eliminate a lot of tiles in the cardinal directions and quickly find the correct path. So there are 4 particular scenarios that you're going to get into. They're all pretty simple and very similar, and they get increasingly easier as you go on. So the first scenario is that you're in the middle of the map and you're traveling upwards. So our little bean here has just traveled from the south, so we can actually eliminate those particular tiles because he's traveled on them. So he's only got 3 directions he can go. Now there's no way to tell which direction is real, so you'll have to either push each other off to test or wait and look for wobbling tiles. So that is the hardest scenario that we're going to see. So the second scenario is that you're on the edge of the map and you came upwards. So we can eliminate the southern tiles because that's where you came from, and on the left you've got the slime or the sky. So he's only actually got really 2 choices here. So one of these is real and one of them is fake, and really at this point just look for one of the wobbling tiles on either of those 2 cardinal directions, and when you see one wobble you can run for the other one. So the third scenario is that you're in the middle of the map but you came in sideways. So you came in from the right, so we can eliminate the rightmost tile because that's where you came from. So you've got 3 options left. We can actually eliminate the southern tile because you'll never have to go down to win. Now that may be a viable tile from a different divergent path, but we don't care about that. So now there's only 2 tiles left. One of those wobbles, the other one is the correct path. Now it may be true that both of those are fake and you have to go backtracking to find the actual real spot, but most of the time that doesn't happen. The fourth and final scenario is that you're on the map edge and you've come in sideways. So here on the left we've got the slime and you came in from the right. So we can eliminate the rightmost tile. We can also eliminate the southernmost tile because we don't want to backtrack, okay? And it may be a viable tile again, but we don't care. So in this scenario there is actually only one option, which is north. So by using all those rules on those different scenarios, you can start to identify fake tiles earlier than your opponents and then take a leap over to what you know is a 100% confirmed tile and try and get ahead. This is really useful when you're towards the end of the map and that you think you can just take a sprint and win it. So my 5th tip is the final leg. If you're on the 3rd row from the end and you get a turn towards the goal, it is 100% sure that that path is real all the way to the finish. There's normally a 2 or 3 tile straight line towards the finish goal, and unless Mediatonic switch the game up, with updates, it's 100% sure that that path is real to the finish. Now if you're on the 4th row from the end and you get a turn towards the goal, there's a nice chance it will be real all the way to the goal, but it's not certain. They may do a little corner on the 2nd to last row, but that leads me very nicely into tip number 6, the final jump. Now you can make a jump with 1 tile missing. So if you are on the 2nd row from the end, you can just jump over the 1st row and then just go into the goal. This is really useful if you're on that 4th row and you've got to turn towards the goal and you're really unsure whether that final row is real. You can just run to the 2nd row and then jump. So that is it for the strategy and tips and tricks for Tiptoe. I may have gone a bit mental with that one, but I really enjoyed it. We're going to look at some games where I look at the wobbly tiles and try and find out the viable route quite quickly, and how I also do a final sprint to the exit using the straight line tips that we talked about at the end. Hopefully you can sort of see how that goes, and hopefully this has improved your gameplay on Tiptoe. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. They call me Bilbo Swaggins! Now some of these tiles do shake, so you can kind of tell certain tiles. Let's go this way. Right, I really probably can't mess about now though. See, some of those tiles are shaking, so you know those ones are fake. Oh, this guy's insane! Grab people to sort of stabilize yourself. Who's going to be like a brave person and say the one at the top there is it, me? I'm the brave person. I knew it. So, as you noticed, I can't turn the camera, but there was definitely like a trail of like 2 or 3, depending on how you sort of leading to the goal. And I think that's always the case. I always think you're going to get like a little trail to the goal. You're not just going to get like trail to the goal and then turn off at the last minute. You know?
I don't know, but...
I'm still in, yeah. Yeah, I can see, yeah.
See why. This is definitely gonna go here.
None of them shaking, but okay.
Just pushing the fucking pigeon, dude. Like,
yeah. Must be it. Yep.
okay.
Yeah. Must be it. Aliens placing explosives. Put a firework factory in a volcano. And then see which one's bigger. They're both the same because they're both the same thing. This one's real. It's not real. Man, what the fuck? Yeah, I got it.